Welcome to the Toronto Maple Leafs Lounge. It's been a busy week with the trade deadline. We got lots to talk about. I am your host, Kevin Armstrong, and I'm joined by the Maple Leafs writers for thehockeywriters.com. And that is Andrew Forbes, Alex Hobson, Jim Parsons, aka the Old Prof, and Peter Baracchini. Welcome to the show, everybody. We got a full house. We were going to run the full house music, but we're not sure about copyright infringements on that. But it's a full house in the Toronto area right now after picking up a whole lot of players. And obviously the most exciting one for me personally and for a lot of Leaf fans was picking up Nick Foligno. I told you guys last episode that I knew this kid when he was younger, when I worked in Sudbury and went and talked to his dad, Mike Foligno, when he got hired to be the Sudbury Wolves coach. And I pulled out my old, just to prove when I left Sudbury, Mike gave me this jersey,
nice
Sudbury Wolves jersey, and gave me a signature. And now, see, there's a signature. And in hindsight, I'm like, I should have got Nick to sign this too. Nick was 14 at the time. So
double the value.
I'm thrilled that Nick is there. I've loved both those boys in their hockey careers. I really think Nick Foligno, he was the guy that got away in the 2006 draft, that he should have been in Toronto from the get-go. But anyway, that's okay. He's here now, and I'm loving it. So, Andrew, what did you think when Foligno and that finally came to be?
I personally loved it. I mean, it's we talked about it a number of times as Leaf writers, getting a piece and without giving up much. And in the end, look, a first round pick in this draft is a first round pick. It's there's a lot of question marks in this draft, and Peter and I have talked about it. And to give up a first round pick like that, you're getting a guy that you're in a win now mentality. To get a top six forward like Nick Foligno, the leadership he has, I think it's a great ad, and you're not giving up anything off the roster. And I think that was the key. They didn't give up a top prospect. That was the key. So we've seen Dubas climb his way back into the first round before, and I wouldn't put it past him to do it again.
Right. Old Prof, when you look at this from the outside looking in and how you look at a team being built, Foligno said things like, this is a dream come true. I've been waiting for this all my life. Those types of things. He said that he remembered walking the streets with his dad in Toronto during the 93 series. What does that do for a team to get a guy like that that's been around this team and this franchise for so long?
I think it means a lot, actually. The fact that he probably, I can imagine the conversation he had with his dad about it as well. That had to be good. I like the idea that he brings the great leadership and great character to the team. One of the things I think, and we'll talk about it later, is just how important leadership is to a team, and the right kind of leadership. And from everything I read, he's a selfless guy. He really will stick up. He's team oriented, etc. Even John Tortorella in an article said how wonderful it was to have worked with him and watch him grow as a leader and a player. So I think he's a great pickup by the Maple Leafs.
Peter, thoughts?
Yeah, no, excellent pickup no matter what. I know a lot of people are saying that the price was a little bit too high for the type of player when they could have gotten maybe Taylor Hall when Boston only gave up a second round pick. And, to each their own, but at the same time, Andrew nailed it on the head. The price is perfect. And you know what? It's the Maple Leafs prospect pool is basically chalked up full of great talent. Nick Robertson's already playing games. Rasmus Sandin is already waiting in the wings to take over that left D spot. Topi Niemela is playing great. Rodi Namirov got signed. Timothy Liljegren's still, developing well. Like we are deep at the prospect pool. Giving up a first rounder this year, hanging on to one, for 2022 is probably better because it's going to be a deeper draft. But for 1 year, giving up a first round pick for someone that could have a significant impact at 5-on-5 on the penalty kill and bring that physical presence like he has in the past. And, we're very familiar with what happened in the bubble last year. Nick Foligno is going to be a major factor no matter what. And the fact that they got him is a really great pickup.
Alex, you wrote an article about why he was worth what the Leafs gave up. Give us a little bit of a nutshell from that article.
Yeah, I mean, I think all you have to do to convince fans who think that paying a first-round pick for Nick Foligno was too much of a price is to sit them down in front of a TV and have them watch the series in the bubble against Columbus from last year. Because I remember watching that series, and Columbus didn't have the skill the Leafs did, but boy, did they ever have the work ethic, and they just grinded them out until they were too tired to keep up with them, and they moved on for a reason. And I think that's exactly what the Leafs need this year. Like you guys have said, the draft is weak. The Leafs probably won't lose sleep over a pick that could end up in the range of 25th to 32nd overall. And I think the most telling fact about this was what Nick Foligno said to Joe Bowen the minute he got traded to Toronto. He said, "Let's go win an effing cup," which is, I think, what every Leafs fan wants to hear after what we've been subjected to since more or less the early 2000s. So, yeah, I think it was a great pickup all around.
Excellent. Make sure you follow thehockeywriters.com on all your favorite social media platforms and head over to our website, thehockeywriters.com, and make sure you subscribe to this channel. All right, now next up is the trade that got away. Trade deadline was great. We thought it might be slow. We thought there wasn't going to be a lot to happen there, but there was quite a few moves that happened, and some big moves. So everyone knows the moves that were made. I'm wondering your guys' takes on the move that maybe didn't happen that you were really hoping for. And I know, Peter, you would have been over the moon if there was a certain trade that was made that you were kind of lobbying for and took so much heat from Arizona for. Peter, tell us about that one.
Yeah, so I came out with an article about a potential trade partner with Darcy Kemper and Connor Garland coming over from the Arizona Coyotes. But seeing a recent sort of like trade recap article with Jim Parsons, he writes at the Hockey Writers as well, doing a lot of the NHL trade rumors and everything like that. There was an article on another site that he writes for where, you know, the Maple Leafs were really close on trading for Connor Garland. And I don't know, like, what happened, like what fell through. Maybe Toronto wasn't willing to give up 2 first-round picks because they gave one up for Foligno. Didn't possibly want to give one up for the future. Don't know what would have happened, but I mean, if they would have got Connor Garland, that would have solidified their top 9 right then and there, especially on the wing. If you wanted to keep Hyman or Galchenyuk on that top line, you have Foligno on the second spot, and then you have Connor Garland possibly going into that second spot, or Foligno on the third. So you have boundless options if they were able to get him. And his ability to be a dangerous player in a high danger slot area, 5-on-5, he's got really great passing. I think he would have been a very complimentary piece. I mean, anywhere he would have fit in very nicely.
I didn't know that he was number 1 in the league for drawing penalties too. That would have been nice to have, and maybe you'd finally give that power play a chance to maybe score. That'd be nice. Andrew, the trade that got away in your view?
Yeah, it's not necessarily one particular trade, but there was a lot of talk about getting defensive depth. And I know they picked up Ben Hutton for next to nothing. And you know, it's all great that we didn't give anything up from the roster, as I mentioned before. But I think really he's not really the depth that you're looking for. That said, if they weren't willing to trade for maybe a top 4 defenseman, maybe the move is that, you know, you do dip into that prospect pool. You heard Peter talk about it, Sandin, Liljegren, there is talent there. And maybe that's why they didn't make that trade. But I think if you're in that win now mentality, that was something that you had to do. And, right now, I think we all can agree that the Leafs are having a little bit of trouble keeping the puck out of their net. And that comes down to defensive depth, especially when you have guys like Bogosian, who could be getting tired after a long bubble run last summer.
Yeah, Jordy Ben for a 6th. We saw Ottawa send out 3 defensemen for pretty lower picks. Yeah, there was a lot of good defensemen out there for cheap. Alex, the one that got away in your mind?
It's hard to say that it was the one that got away for me because I was more or less pretty impressed with all the moves that Dubas made. But if I had to think of one guy, I'd have to say I wanted them to pick up Jamie Alexiak from Dallas. I haven't been particularly impressed with Travis Dermott on the bottom pairing this year, and I think Alexiak would have been a great guy to add in the sense that he's decent offensively. I think he's got 10 points in 42 games this year, and he's a big imposing threat on the ice. And what I also like about his game is that he's very mobile for a big guy. Like, he can skate pretty well. So I would have thought that he would fit in really well next to Bogosian on that bottom pairing. But having said that, they picked up Ben Hutton, and at the very least, Hutton's going to challenge Dermott and essentially, puts the message out there. It's like, hey, you can keep playing all you want, keep doing what you're doing, but there's a guy here that's ready to take your spot if you don't improve. So I like the fact that it kind of challenges Dermott a little bit. And overall, I'm pretty happy with the way that the deadline turned out. But yeah, Alexiak would have been a good pickup.
I saw on social media one of the best memes in the trade deadline was it ranked how teams did, and a very active whatever. And Dallas was in the did you know that the trade deadline was today? Like, what are you doing? Alexiak's probably not going to be resigning there, and you could have gotten something for the guy. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that was my guy of both you and Andrew, getting some defense there. And Alexiak. The other one that sticks in my mind is how cheap Eric Stahl went to Montreal, and now Toronto's likely going to have to play him in the playoffs. That's one to me that got away. I just don't think the rest of the league knew that they were going to move Stahl that early. I don't know if there were any other. And I think Bergevin with his big pipes might have been bullying Kevin Adams too. I don't know. We'll never know what happens behind the scenes. Yeah. Wish I did. All right, let's switch gears a little bit. And actually, I wanted to circle back around to Foligno because I get excited with Foligno, and we'll just make this one quick. But where do you guys see him in the lineup? Because there's a lot of forwards there. We all know that Galchenyuk has done a good job and has worked his way into that top six, and that's why we thought maybe they weren't going to get a top six. Foligno is a top six kind of guy, but a different kind of guy that's not in that Leaf top six right now. I don't know. It's great to have all these tools to play with. Andrew, where do you see Foligno fitting into that lineup?
He'll be slotting in on the second or third line. It'll depend on what you want to do with Galchenyuk and Hyman at the end of the day. I think Galchenyuk's it's really going to force Galchenyuk to play well. He's got an opportunity right now. If he can stay with that top line and continue the progress that he's made so far this year, I think that's going to be a great opportunity for him. And I think Foligno being, that second or third line winger is going to really push Galchenyuk to be better. And you know what, Hyman, you can really slot in anywhere in the lineup, and I think he makes your lineup better. So we've had that discussion before. You all know where I lie on the Hyman topic, but I do see Foligno kind of slotting into that second or third line wing position. It'll be based on how he fits in and the chemistry that he builds with those line mates.
Old Prof, where do you put Foligno on your line combinations?
I'd put him in the bottom six and really try. I know that when I looked at the bubble and Alex was talking about the way they played, the team really did not have, they loaded up one line against Columbus, came back in one game, and then they really got wasted. They got tired. And they're not going to this time. And I think because I would put him in the bottom and I would play him contextually wherever the need was. I think he'll add anywhere. I mean, he's like Spezza. Spezza could play at any position for a short time, right? But and so will Foligno. But I would put him in the bottom. I would create that shutdown line they really tried to do with that third line. And if you could get all four lines rolling in the playoffs, I think that would be a really huge advantage for the team. And this is the season, for the years that I've covered the Maple Leafs, I think they have the best possibility of doing just that. So I think contextually anywhere he's needed, but really solidifying probably the third line and making that just a powerhouse line that can be put out against anybody.
Peter, you wrote an article that said 3 Maple Leafs in risk of losing their roster spot. And so that might reflect in where you would put them in on your line combinations. If you want to tell us a little bit about the article and where you see them slotting in.
Yeah, I mean, like we talked about before, Foligno gives him really great depth. Same thing with Riley Nash, the acquisition. What's going to happen with Jason Spezza? I mean, not necessarily Jason Spezza is going to lose a spot. I think he's been playing well that he deserves a promotion up to that third line. So you're looking at someone possibly like Joe Thornton, Wayne Simmons, and Pierre Engvall, who were on a line last game, did not look fairly well altogether, although Thornton and Simmons did seem to have better games. And they were throwing their weight around compared to Engvall. It's just that right now, and I got a little bit of heat for this because, you sign Thornton, you sign Simmons for, the presence, the leadership, and everything like that, and then you're possibly going to sit them. You go with the best unit possible. And if Thornton and Simmons are basically, they're household names. They've been proven to be factors in the past, but if they're not playing well right now, you got to go with the hot hands. You got to go with who's performing well. And I think with Foligno coming in, just puts that whole left side, especially Thornton's job, more at risk than maybe Wayne Simmons, who could play on the right side. And I'm going to look at this as 60-40, 60% Foligno on the second line, and then 40% on the third line, because like Andrew said, Hyman could play anywhere. And if you have a third line of Hyman, Spezza, and Mikheyev, that's a pretty good third line with the speed and the aggressiveness that both all three of them have. So it's going to be really interesting, but I do think Foligno is that Zach Hyman type of player that can play with Tavares and Nylander on that second line.
Right. So Alex, you had the last word on this one. Where do you line Foligno up?
Keep this short and sweet. Forbes took the words right out of my mouth. I think it's either second line or third line. I think with Foligno and the type of game he plays, the Leafs have all sorts of options to experiment where they want to play him. I think if you want to have that checking winger on the second line with Tavares and one of Nylander or Marner, then he could fit in great in that role. But I think at the same time, having him at the third line left wing spot, playing alongside of Ilya Mikheyev and one of Kerfoot or Jason Spezza, that gives them one of the better checking lines in the league. So I think he's very versatile, but I think it's definitely going to be somewhere in the middle six.
The best thing about Sheldon Keefe is he keeps us on our toes for line combinations. I'm pretty sure we will see Foligno on every line in the next 20 games, and that'll determine it. Maybe he'll click with the top line. Who knows at this point? But that Keefe is going to try him out with every setting. So the next part to talk about when it comes to Foligno is his addition means there are now 4 former captains, or current, in the case of John Tavares, on the Leafs. And that means there are 12 guys on the roster that have worn a letter at the NHL level. That's an incredible stat to look at, especially when not too long ago, Peter, Andrew, and I appeared on another show, and the big topic was, do the Leafs have a leadership problem? Because there was no leaders appearing. This was before the season, before the trades, before the signings, and now there's a lot of leaders. So let's start with you, old prof. What does that mean when there is that much leadership? And is it too much leadership in one locker room?
I don't think there can be too much leadership, particularly if this leadership is of a kind. And what you see in this leadership group is the deference to other leaders. I think it's a group that is building what we call a community of practice, sort of in the academic world, that the sense that leadership is best done in organizations when it's distributed. And this is distributed well. And I think behind the scenes, Dubas has done 2 things to really reshape this team. One is to bring that leadership in of a particular kind. And Thornton's leadership is in not just his experience, but also his affability, and he's got his head screwed on right. You have Spezza, who will defer to, he knows his pay grade. Even when he was treated poorly last year, he never said boo. These are the kind of guys you have on this team, and I don't think there can be too many of them. And I think underneath all that stuff, that's the one tipping point that the Maple Leafs have that I think is undervalued this year. They have a great team ethos, and it's built on the kind of selfless leadership that you see from players like Foligno and from Thornton. If Thornton never scored another goal for the for the Maple Leafs, which I hope he does, because that will make him the oldest Maple Leafs player ever to score a goal. But if he doesn't, he still was value added to the team for $700,000. And I think that leadership is just key and can't be. I think it's their trump card really this year. That will be the one thing that's so different than the other years.
All right, so we heard lots of academia there, so that means we got to go to our student. And Alex, what do you think? Too much leadership? Not enough? Maybe we need more leaders. I don't know.
No,
Alex,
I think
what do you think?
I think Prof pretty much nailed it and hit the nail right on the head. I think a lot of times people will confuse leadership with experience. So, I mean, you could make the argument that, you know, there could be such thing as too much leadership in a room, but I think there's sort of an unspoken rule among anybody that walks into that Leafs dressing room that since John Tavares has the C on his jersey, he is the captain in the end, and he is the guy that everyone looks up to. Having said that, bringing in guys who have been there before and who have worn the C for other teams, Joe Thornton, Nick Foligno, Jason Spezza, etc., I think I don't see how that could be a bad thing in any way, because all you're doing bringing in guys like that is bringing in more guys who have been there before and who can shed their wisdom down to the young core that the Leafs have. I mean, sure, Matthews and Marner have the alternate captain. They've got the leadership letters on their jerseys, but they've only been in the league for 4 or 5 years at this point. If you're bringing in guys like Foligno, like I said, and like we've had Spezza for a while, I think all that does is just give the younger players a guy to look up to and a teammate to kind of reflect on and say, wow, so he's been there before. He knows what it takes. And it's just another voice in the room. So no, I don't think there is ever an issue with too much leadership in the dressing room.
Andrew, I know you're the first to always say that we don't know what goes on behind closed doors, but I have a feeling that these guys that we're talking about, they don't care who's wearing the letter. Their character is about team. And that's what goes a long way with the leadership. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you took the word right out of my mouth. I was going to say, along with leadership comes character, and I forget who tweeted it this week, but they said that it's all about the diversity of leadership, and the diversity of leadership is that you have Thornton, who's willing to go out there in front of the Toronto media, one of the toughest in the league, and you know, take a bullet for the team, for the young squad, defer the attention away from the young players. You've got a Foligno who's willing to go out there and just grind and has pure heart. You have, Jason Spezza, who literally goes on the ice and will do whatever it takes to get it done and is having a hell of a year because of it. And then you have a guy like John Tavares, who is more of a quiet guy when it comes to the way that he leads the team. The character on that team there's an abundance of it, but it's in a way that this team can benefit from it. And you could say, I tweeted out this week that, give Jack Campbell the Mark Messier Leadership Award, because I've never seen a guy go out there and just take every bullet for a team that he's, plays in front of him. And this is a team that's won for 40 something in their last, 15 games on the power play. Like it's unbelievable, but he's still the one saying, yeah, I should have been better. And so the leadership, the character is beyond anything I've seen in this Toronto team since I've been watching them. And I think that's a huge credit to what they've been able to bring into that room.
Campbell goes out there and takes all the bullets for the team, and then he shoots himself 10 more times. That's pretty much how it goes every time he meets the press.
Yeah.
Andrew, I've got that one for you. It's 1 for 42 in the last 17 games.
There you go.
Finally got a stat.
Yeah.
Andrew. This is a big day for me. Peter, the leadership dynamic, your thoughts?
Yeah, everybody just nailed it. You can never have too much. And if they're in a dire situation like they were against Columbus last season, who did Toronto have at that moment? John Tavares, who played recently for the New York Islanders, Jason Spezza. You really didn't have much. You brought in Wayne Simmons, who's gone a little bit further or like had some success with the Philadelphia Flyers. Joe Thornton came ever so close to winning the Stanley Cup and just fell to the Pittsburgh Penguins. Nick Foligno powered through Tampa Bay the year before, swept the team, pushed through a very equally gifted offensive team in the Toronto Maple Leafs, and even pushed Tampa Bay to a 5 or 6 overtime game, even though they ended up losing the series. they fought hard to the very end. So if you need someone or players to have a vocal presence and help them push them over the hump when they need to and they feel like they're down and out, you've got a lot of players in there to step up and be like, guys, don't sulk, don't bow your head, keep it up high, we're going to do fine, just power through. So you're going to have that reassurance from them that they have everybody's back and that they're holding everyone accountable.
That is Peter Baracchini, and you can join him and Andrew Forbes for the podcast Sticks in the Six on your favorite podcast channels. And if you want that link, it is on thehockeywriters.com. Make sure you follow us on all the social media channels, subscribe to this YouTube channel as well, and make sure you like it and get a notification every time there's a new video, as a number of the teams for the Hockey Writers are now posting weekly videos, so you can catch up on all the teams that are out there. And that kind of leads to our social media roundup. I saw a doozy this week, guys. And this kind of goes back to how our writing colleagues, they do all this for all the different teams, but we see that there's a lot of love and hate directed towards our team on the Hockey Writers. We get a lot of different clicks and different views from not even Leaf fans. And I was on Facebook following this NHL group, and somebody said, I'm a new fan to hockey. Why does everyone hate the Maple Leafs? And man, it was just like click, 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 comment, comment, comment. And it was pretty fascinating to read. You know, like there were a lot of jerky things being said on there, but people were trying to actually put some rationale behind it. One that I thought was interesting is it's that Toronto mentality of Toronto's the center of the universe. And if you are not in that Southern Ontario bubble, I left the Southern Ontario bubble about 20 years ago, and that's when I finally realized what that actually meant. You only get blasted with Toronto stuff, no matter where you are in Canada. So when you got teams like Vancouver and Edmonton and Calgary that are doing their thing, but you don't hear about them, they're not the number one team that gets shown on the highlight reel that night, you know, not talked about, you kind of get annoyed. You're like, what about our team? We did this, that, and the other thing, right? I think that has a lot to do with it. Andrew, what do you think? Why do so many people hate the Maple Leafs?
Well, it's the same reason everybody hates the New York Knicks. It's one of those big city mentalities, and I grew up just outside of Toronto, so I understand that feel as well. And I like to say, as I slowly get a little bit older here, I kind of understand that we take a lot of offense when people bash the team, and I find now that you try more to make sense of why they're saying that or why it's coming down to those comments. And I think, people just love to hate the big city teams. There's a lot of people out there that hate the Rangers. There's a lot of people out there that don't like Montreal. I, for one, am not a Senators fan. So, I mean, it's everywhere. I just think it's magnified because Toronto is the mecca for hockey. You have the Maple Leafs. You have a storied franchise that has been there for so many years. And people, people love to hate them. I used to know a guy that was a Montreal fan, and he would go on about how the Leafs never really had a legendary player. And it made me question, like, I went back and looked. Yeah, you know what? Montreal's full of legendary players. Toronto has a lot of big name players. Are they legendary? And I questioned it. But I think people just love to hate the team. I really do. And I kind of feed off of it. So.
And it's interesting you say that they love to hate, because as soon as the hate shows up, you see a whole bunch of love coming in too, because somebody says they suck, and then you get about 5 fans going, what about your team? Or why do you not like that? Why'd you say that? And it gets that whole battle. So I almost think that a lot of the people that comment that don't like the Leafs, they actually like to get the sudden bang back of like, don't say that about my team, right? Peter, your thoughts on why this team is so hated?
I've been asking that question for quite some time. It's difficult because I think maybe because I honestly, I do not have an answer. I guess it's just, you know what? Every team probably has their opinion on everything. You know, if I think it goes back to the rivalry with a lot of Toronto Montreal fans. I know my family, a lot of my family's Montreal Canadian fans, so we had that budding rivalry going back and forth. You know, I think it's something that maybe just comes in as playful banter. You know, trying to like troll the other side, antagonize them a little bit, get under their skin. I don't know, but the people that go too far, they go too far. You know, enough is enough, and like it is a hockey team. Like you shouldn't just bash on anybody just because you're a fan of something or not. It's that's just where I stand. I'm in between, in the middle, but yeah, I don't have a good
too
answer.
nice of a guy. That's why I can't understand.
The old prof is rubbing
guy.
off on me right now. I don't have a good answer.
The old prof, I'm wondering if you've got some academics to put behind this one, and why there would be so much hate for Canada's largest, the team that's got the largest population around it, and seemingly the largest following.
I think it it has to. If I had to guess, I think it would have to do because Toronto's so rich. We don't like rich people, and although on the other hand, we hate the Yankees too. I do, and it's because they won so much. But Toronto hasn't won, so I'm sort of ambivalent about it. As you were talking, I was thinking about. I was teaching at the University of Aberdeen in Scotland. And when I ever teach globally at another university, I would always try to go out and get a rugby shirt. That's one thing I tried to bring home with me. And I went into a sports store there, and I was looking, of course, at their clearance stuff, their rugby shirts. I thought I'd pick up something. And there was one shirt that was just there, and it was so much cheaper than every other shirt. And I asked the guy, why is this shirt so cheap? He said, that's Great Britain, but you wouldn't want to be buying that. So it just struck me that, you know, in Scotland, Great Britain is the hated. In the rest of the hockey world, Toronto's hated. Is sort of just the way it is. I have no explanation for it, but at the same time, it's sort of fun.
Now, I know that Alex, you joined the team kind of in the following during the Raycroft era, right? And
oh yes, the
so
first Leaf goalie I ever had the pleasure of watching.
To see the ups and the downs and the maybe ups, but anyway, if you join like at that level, there's 30 other teams you can pick from at any time. So why is this team the one that seems to be the hated team?
Well, first and foremost, I just want to say I definitely didn't witness any ups in my time being a Leaf fan. I started following them in 2006, so I kind of caught on at the worst time. You know what? If I could give you a long, drawn out answer, but I would pretty much just be repeating everything you guys said. It all comes back to the Leafs being in the hockey mecca of the universe, and not having had much success since 1967, and as a result, having lots of fans feeling the need to go to war and defend themselves. I think that's really what it comes down to. I mean, we have arguably the biggest fan base in the NHL, and as a result, we've got probably the most highest percentage of vocal fans who feel the need to go to war for their hockey team. And I feel like, especially like you said, going back to what you said, Kevin, about if you're not in the Toronto bubble, then if you're not in the Toronto bubble, then you're not seeing the Leaf. You're not seeing anything about the Leafs. So I think it's that's more or less all it is. I don't really have anything else to say.
All right, so that was to kick off the social media roundabout. One other thing I wanted to say that kind of stuck in my mind that I thought was great. It was a Boston fan who said, if in 2010, if you had told me that we'd give away Tyler Seguin for nothing and we would get Taylor Hall for nothing, I'd be questioning your common sense, something along those lines. I thought that was pretty funny. Interesting turn of events in Boston. Peter, what did you see in the old World Wide Web this week that had you thinking?
Not necessarily thinking, but ones that really gave me a good laugh. You know, in a good way, not because someone was trolling in terms of a comment or anything, but Chris Shilton tweeted out in regards to Ben Hutton's press conference when he was joining the team. And he said a lot of things. I mean, they're deep. They can. Wait, we can. I can finally say we now. We can score. It's a good lineup to look at. You've got a bit of everything. So that one was just really like surreal to me. Like, he's joining the team and he's just like, wait, I could actually say this now. I'm part of this club. I'm part of this highly offensive team right now. So that was pretty fun. And the other one, I gotta give it to Alex on this one. During the trade deadline, when we found out that Victor Mete was put on waivers, he posted out a tweet that says, Habs fans watching Bergevin waive Victor Mete for John Merrill, only for Ottawa to claim Mete. He's playing Killing in the Name of by Rage Against the Machine. And then it just goes off the trails right there. I've watched that quite a bit, man. That was a really great video. I laughed way too hard at the end, but yeah, that was something that, it was a boring day at that point. He lifted my spirits up with some, lightheartedness right there.
Peter, you always flatter me during these social media segments.
Well, you had us thinking. You put Peter and I on the spot last week. So what have you got this week for your social media?
Nothing. I don't think anything will compare to what I said last week. I've got two tweets here. Only one of them is really worth discussion. The other one I just thought was kind of funny. The first thing I saw was, I believe this is a Nashville beat reporter tweeting out the Predators' defensive pairings today. And I just want to make a note about how their third pairing for tonight's game is Ben Harpur and Eric Goodbranson. And I'm wondering if that might be the slowest D pairing in NHL history.
Yeah.
And that's the exact type of D pairing that 50% of Leaf fans were clamoring for last year. So yeah. Just wanted to put that one out there. And then another one that made me laugh was I don't know if you guys noticed this morning, but Twitter was down for a while. There was some issues with the system. I don't know, some glitches or whatever. And the New Jersey Devils took advantage of it and tweeted, Twitter was down for a bit tonight. Was good not to get yelled at for 35 minutes. I feel like there are a lot of social media pages out there that think the same way, because you at the team and you yell at them and you yell at the reporters, and it's like they're just the messengers. They're not the ones that are making these decisions. So it must get pretty tiring being a social media intern for professional teams.
Yeah, no kidding. Andrew, what did you see out there?
Well, first off, I'm still working on calculating clutch level from last week or 2 weeks ago. It's not going well. Mathematics, not my thing. But I do want to question why there's so much hate online for John Tavares. It just seems like everywhere you go, because he's only got 38 points in 44 games, that he's receiving a lot of hate. But I mean, I actually played rep lacrosse with John Tavares back in Oakville, and so it I don't know, maybe there's a soft spot in me that just wants to stand up for this guy, but he's getting a lot of hate online, and that's really all I've got going on the Twitterverse right now. I do want to mention, though, Peter and I did have Paul Hendrick on the podcast this week, and he says to every person on Twitter that doesn't have their regular name or a picture to go along with their reporting, he says, piss off. That's what he wanted to say to everybody. So thank you, Paul Hendrick, for adding that to the show.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
It is hard.
It's always the guys with their Twitter handles, like their first name, and then it's 7 random numbers. It's always those guys.
Yeah.
It's actually Tony D'Angelo.
One more that I saw that I really enjoyed, and it really had me going, wow, how things have changed. Did you guys know that right now in the NHL, the Florida Panthers are number 2 in attendance? All 7 Canadian teams are tied for last.
Oh, man.
I wonder why.
And Canadians have turned off hockey.
Is Dallas first? Do they have the most attendance?
Could be, yeah.
I'm thinking it might. I'm wondering if it's Dallas. I know they don't really. They just kind of said, like, screw it. As many fans can come to the game as they want. So,
last in Canada. Not for long. I cannot wait. I'm telling you guys, I can't wait to get back into a live event and be around people and get that vibe again. Old Prof, I'm sure you're with me on that one.
Yes, I am. In fact, as the conversation goes, the fact that after the comment about people using handles and me not using my name, I really, every once in a while, I get it on someone who rightly corrects me on some mistake I made. Said, you're a prop. How come you're so stupid? Right. In that sense. But and as I say, they're rightfully so. One of the interesting things that came up on the social media is just a huge discussion of the Maple Leafs power play. And it just drove me back to my philosophy background. I'm sure you guys can't wait for this. But there's a sense in which philosophy does explain the power play, because there are three ways of knowing. One is to know that if you do something, it'll work. One is to know how to do it. And that's what the power play coach does. But the third one is to know to do it. And I think that's the element where the Maple Leafs are not doing it. They know exactly what to do. They know how to do it because they've been coached, but do they know to do it? And that's a great philosophical take, I think, on what's wrong with the power play right now. They're just not doing what they know they should do and have been practiced to do. So that conversation has been coming up all the time with my people who comment on my posts. But that goes back to Gilbert Ryle in 1949, by the way. Epistemologically, that's the nature of that knowledge.
Prof, I think the Leafs need to hire you as a philosophical advisor or something like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm taking notes because I got to look up all that stuff you just said and get some more knowledge on that. You said 1949 Gilbert
Ryle, R-Y-L-E. I'm sure everyone is taking notes.
I always do. You always give me something to look up after we have these chats. Oh, that was great. And I'll say too, on that front, I did an article about the power play, and I said in the article that I'm not going to profess to be an NHL coach or a player. So I'm not going to try to say they should be using the umbrella, the overload, whatever. They should be winning the face-off. They should be moving the puck. They should be getting people in front of the net. I'm not going to say that because obviously these guys know what they're doing. Every one of the comments after that in social media, everyone was saying, they need to move the puck around. They need to get people in front of the net. And I'm like, wow, they clearly don't know this. You know, you should really write them and let them know.
Yeah.
So anyway, and you know, when I talk about being in live events and all those things, I'm glad that we have the Maple Leafs Lounge, I'll tell you, because this is my interaction for the week. Mm-hmm. Oh man. But I cannot wait. We'll have to get one of these days. We'll actually have a real drink and a real lounge somewhere, and can record this at that point somehow, some way. We'll figure that out. But we're coming through it at some point, I hope. That has been the Maple Leafs Lounge. It's our virtual lounge that we hope you enjoy watching as much as we enjoy making it for you and writing for thehockeywriters.com about the most loved team in the universe. Right?
Absolutely.
Always. 100%. We
We will see you next week on the Maple Leaf Lounge.